on it because there are probably some pretty good artists on it because there are probably some pretty good artists Good. I hope lots of people will attend. So evening, everybody who's out there. First, this is the meeting of the Beach Advisory Committee, and I'm going to call the roll, first of all. Barry, you're here. Joanne.
Here.
John.
Here.
Paul.
Here.
And Carol.
Here.
And I'm obviously here too. We are missing 2 members tonight who couldn't attend, but that does give us a quorum, so we're good to go. So the first item is the minutes from our August 16th, 2021 meeting. Does anybody have any changes or questions on those?
I do not.
Okay, John, you're moving.
Accept the minutes.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
Thank you. Here we go with a roll call. Barry.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Sorry, do you approve the?
I approved.
Joanne.
No, I approve.
John.
Aye.
Paul.
Yes.
Carol.
Yes.
And I approve. So adopted unanimously. Great. Great. So the first really substantive topic we want to go over tonight is the reports that we usually get on how the summer beach season went. We've got some helpful information from the police department and the town manager in terms of statistics on what certain things look like, such as how many parking permits were issued over the last 3 years, actually. And then it showed a very interesting, we had a total of 8,000 in 2019, of course, which was the summer before COVID hit us. We had 8,231 total sales of parking passes. The largest number of that was the day passes at almost 4,900 of those. The overall revenue to the town was over $195,000. Then in 2020, obviously, not surprisingly, there was a big dip. There were actually a fair number of daily parking passes sold. The number overall of parking passes sold went down by about 600, 700 total, and the revenue went down to $157,000. Now this summer, and this is the first summer that we've had the 2 parking kiosks in place. And we found that the daily passes were back up to a new high of almost 5,300 and a total overall of 8,800 in terms of overall beach parking stickers sold, both, town resident as well as longer term ones. And an overall revenue, which was down from the high in 2019 of $187,000, almost $188,000. Anybody have any questions or comments on that, or should I go on to talk about the other things that we're covering?
I do. I'm curious, did we change the price of the weekly pass twice?
Yeah.
We must have.
It's inconsistent because we had the same number as in 19, basically 328 to 329, and yet it dropped by 90%.
Oh yeah, it's just incredible. I just don't understand those weekly numbers. I really don't think they're correct.
It looks like a typo to me.
Well, it's more than a typo because it's in both years. They're weird. So the weekly was, it was half as much in 20 as 19, but it went down, 80%.
Right.
So there's something's not right with the weekly numbers, or we changed the prices, which is great. But
I thought the price went up, not down.
That's what I would have thought too. So I just really believe these numbers need to be checked.
Okay. I will try doing that when the police chief is back in town, and the town manager is out till Thursday too. We'll go back and ask some further.
So let's just get a sanity check on that. Good.
Okay.
One other interesting thing, there was a big increase. I went to get a resident pass very late in the season, and they had run out. And these numbers, so they were using another pass and adapting them. But this shows we had 2,800 and 2,750 last year, and we were up to over 3,058. It doesn't bring in much income, but it's a lot more residents getting passes.
Yep.
Which would, I think, be consistent with a lot more people up here full-time and building that's gone on.
Right.
But I don't know that it accounts for another 300, 400. But, okay, well, I will try and get some clarification on this and send it around to you once both Lori and the police chief are back in town, and we can ask for a little bit of an audit on the numbers. On the violations, we have had 637 parking violations this year, and we're up to a higher. Well, I take that back. A 74% actually paying their parking violations, which is down from up from last year, but down from previous years when we were more in the 90 and 90% range. So again, people are perhaps more scofflaws. Who knows?
Or it could be year end versus, October 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they make any effort to go after them.
I don't know. I think, this is based on the sort of same time of year that we get this, I believe that we get this report every year.
Yeah.
So, the dog violations were up way high last year, but are down again this year to 21. That's still higher than in prior years. And interestingly, some more fireworks violations. That's up to a new high of 8. A few, no alcohol problems, no model rockets or sleeping on the beach. There were more beach fire complaints this year, and we'll talk about that issue as well as to some extent about dog issues and compliance issues. No motorized vehicles on the beach, no citations for dog violations, which is usually not very high anyway. I mean, we're only talking about 1 versus none this year. But we also got some kind of helpful feedback from the police department. Obviously chats with the community service officers before they depart and gets their feedback on what they observed during the course of their, service this summer. Obviously, this is not a surprise that the beach appears to be more populated than in past years. I think we're all that's kind of a given this time. And then they observed that since the addition of the parking permit kiosks, there were fewer parking violations. And they thought that, in addition, they thought that they were too far away. They were getting feedback from some, people coming to the beach that the parking kiosks were too far away from some parking spots. I think basically what that seems to be saying, and I hope Lori and the police, I'm sure they're noting this too, that maybe we need one more kiosk down at the New Biddeford Road end, because now we have one at the general store, one at the Proctor entrance, sort of mid-beach. And then it is a bit of a hike from the New Biddeford Road area. And there are quite a bit of parking spaces on New Biddeford Road too, that it would be nice to let people, obviously if the CSOs are saying if there's a parking kiosk nearby, people are much more apt to go and buy a parking pass and actually use it. So I think that's hopefully one thing that the town will take a note and take away, because I suspect that the price of putting in another parking kiosk would be justified by, the revenue that each of them generates. I don't know what the actual cost of putting one in is, but it does seem like almost all of the parking, or certainly the daily parking passes are done by the kiosks now. So, and that generates, this year generated $132,000 worth of revenue. So hopefully in there, the price of a new kiosk could be absorbed.
Well, the question is going to be, if you add a third kiosk, does your revenue go up? And that isn't obvious, but certainly the convenience factor goes up. So
Right.
I think that's all it's really there. But there you go.
Yeah, I think that's hopefully, one recommendation that they will see on their own. If not, we can certainly make it or mention that looks like an easy fix.
Okay, do the parking violations, like I'm looking there, the 637 for this year,
Right.
Let's just say 3/4 of it is paid. Does that money reflected in terms of what the beach generates? Or is it just purely what they pay for parking and the violations are not part of it?
That's a question I have to say I don't know the answer to. I will try and check on that.
I mean, I'm just eyeballing. It's probably another 20 grand right there.
Yeah, I think I would have thought that the numbers of showing the revenue from the parking sales are from the sales, not from chasing, getting
They're
tickets.
definitely from the sales.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything including, people paying parking tickets there.
I don't believe that's included in the beach revenue, no.
Right.
And if you-
It would just be interesting because it does generate a significant amount of money here.
Yep.
But in Maine, I know if you get a speeding ticket, you get pulled over by I used to curse the Biddeford police thinking that's how they were financing things. But it turns out that all the money goes to the state for traffic violations. It doesn't go to the municipalities.
Even including parking violations?
Well, I don't know about parking, but I would assume.
I don't either, so I'll check.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The CSOs found, apparently there was a newspaper article at the beginning of the year, which I don't remember catching, but maybe it's in the Post, I don't know, that they were very happy to see and felt that a lot of people who actually read the paper and use the information printed there about the CSOs to start conversations with them. And we also Audrey Lakin did a great job in taking, at the beginning of the summer, just as they were finishing up their training, taking individual photos and group photos of the CSO class for this year and putting, every other day or so, putting a brief bio out on the Facebook page, the Friends of Goose Rocks Beach Facebook page. So the more we can, obviously the CSOs are saying that's helpful. It makes it easier for them to connect up with the people who are out there, and certainly something that's easy enough for us to continue doing. They said that the police department was very helpful to the CSOs, assisting them with any issues that came up. One thing I found interesting were they, particularly with regard to the dog ordinance, they commented that for the most part, violations that took place or people pushing back against them were most likely to be locals and not tourists. The tourists in some cases were not familiar with the rules, but weren't, apparently once they were apprised of them, were not as difficult to deal with as people who live here.
Entitlement.
Let's see. The other thing they said is that they found a real challenge from the tag systems that, when they saw a piece of property like a kayak that was left someplace it shouldn't have been, the first efforts are to tag it and not to just, confiscate it or tow it away. And they found that was difficult because it would seem that owners of some of those pieces of property would just rip the tags off and throw them away and leave the property right where they had them. Again, it's an enforcement issue. I don't know how much the police department want to try to address that, but it's a difficult issue. Although, my own personal observation is with the addition of the kayak racks, thank you very much, Conservation Trust and the gentleman who has donated them, as well as, looking at things at the Dinghy Point area, I thought we were in pretty good shape. People seem to want to use the facilities that are provided. And, we did keep an eye on Dinghy Point because some people were complaining a bit about that. But I think most of us that looked at it found it to be in pretty good shape. Just the types of dinghies and even if there were kayaks and other things, flotation devices that people could use to get out to their boats that might be moored there. So I personally didn't see any major problem. I don't know if anybody else did.
I did not.
Yeah. There were some comments apparently that people leaving kayaks and other watercraft in the conservation area resulted in complaints saying that it made the beach look messy.
Imagine how messy it would be if there wasn't a local place for them. So
Exactly.
it's organized mess.
Exactly. And as we all know, the size and nature of people's toys have been changing. And so, they did say that pop-up tents were often being left unattended as people went swimming or walking, and a lot of them, several of them would get blown away and into other groups on the beach. So, the alcohol on the beach, residents would like to see heavier enforcement by the CSOs. But there is sometimes confusion over appropriate use of alcohol, like within a 25-foot reserved area, since there's, no easy way to observe which is a reserve area and which is just somebody using alcohol on the beach. They did say that the alcohol litter appears to have gotten worse. They believe it is often in connection with campfires at night. And the other thing that's the first time I've seen this brought up, and I have heard of it from, residents here myself, that we seem to have more of an issue of music on the beach, Bluetooth speakers, loud music being played at a much higher decibel level than people have done it in the past. So again, we don't have a specific noise ordinance or anything like that yet. We've always in the past simply relied upon just common sense and neighborliness. Hopefully we won't have to come to the point of an issue about that, but hopefully they will be able to just ask people to turn it down or use earbuds or something like that to enjoy whatever style of music they prefer to listen to. Again, smoking violations more than usual, according to the CSOs. I didn't ask whether it's smoking traditional or vaping or what, and I had seen some of that myself when I've walked the beach. Again, there's an issue sometimes of whether it's in a 25-foot reserve area. I don't know that that's permissible even within the reserve area, but I can't comment on that right now.
I didn't really know that smoking was banned. Is that a litter thing?
Yes.
They still want cigarette butts?
Yeah, of course.
What if you carry out?
Well, the guy next to you is still breathing your air, so that's the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not a litter. It's an environmental.
It's both.
It's both.
Yeah. And, it's...
There's no public park or beach that smoking is allowed at anymore.
Fascinating. I didn't realize that.
Okay, so I think overall that was some good feedback from the CSOs, most of whom seem to have positive, things to say about their job, that they loved walking the beach, loved developing relationship with people who visit the beach, liked working with the police department, who apparently pick them up every so often to get them off their feet and give them a little bit of a rest here and there, which is nice to hear. I don't have specific statistics about campfires, but I do have, unfortunately, I didn't realize until too late after the police chief and the town manager were already both away before this meeting, to get an actual count. I did get information from Tracy O'Rourke that she understands there were only 18 campfire permits issued. I will try and get verification on that directly from the police department when the police chief comes back. I know we didn't reinstitute, so to speak, the campfire permits process until July 18th. And as somebody pointed out, July 18th, even from July 18th on, we had still a lot of rain, so it wouldn't have been conducive to having a campfire. It still seems a little low to me, but I don't know whether it's the effect of the much more stringent requirements about how to have a campfire, and the increase in the permit, the deposit required, and obviously, from what I understand, at least one campfire deposit was retained because there were violations. I don't know the specifics of that or what kind of violations. We have gotten input from some residents that observing what they believe was debris from campfires that were being left around on the beach or litter or whatever. So it sounds like the police department is on top of this. They have somebody patrolling the beach on nights when campfires are allowed, are permitted. And the CSOs are following up in the following morning to observe the situation at each site that the campfire was permitted for. I will tell you one funny anecdote, however. Somebody told me, this is a sort of interesting, fun thing. Somebody told me they knew of a family, I can't remember, it was part of their own family, that decided they wanted to have a campfire, particularly the younger members of the family, the millennial generation mostly. So the millennials went trotting down to the police department to apply for a permit, which was all well and good until they realized that they had to put the deposit in the form of a check or a money order. And none of them even had a checkbook or had written a check ever, practically. So they had to stand around and twiddle their thumbs until a member of the older generation, i.e. pretty much our generations, showed up with a checkbook. I found that kind of amusing. It says something about the difference in generations and the way people operate these days. But from the standpoint of the police department, I don't think they're going to change that anytime soon, because they don't take credit cards and they don't want to take cash, even if you happen to have $250 on you, to hold cash of any sort, or have to go through, taking a credit card and then reversing it or whatever. So I guess people are going to have to learn to deal with checks. Paul.
Kate, I've only been back on the committee since June, but we used to get a report from the town for an accounting of what was spent out of the beach fund. Their fiscal year is June 30th, so it would seem we should get at the next meeting last year's through June 30th what was spent. And just so people who may not be aware, the beach fund gets replenished each year under the beach use ordinance up to like $130,000, and we are earning far in excess of that, even though the number is down a bit. People are sometimes very worried about spending any money, but the fund was put there to take care of the beach and properly manage it. And we've never even come close, as far as I know, to spending $130 a year. We spend far, far less. And that includes, the summer support staff, signage, communication, the rest of it.
Okay. I will look into that. I'll check with Lori Smith when she gets back and have it available for the next time. I can't remember that we've had that report in recent years, but we'll double check.
We used to get it every year.
Yeah, it's a good thing to have. I would certainly encourage us to ask for it.
Okay, so that's the fiscal year ending 6/30/21. Okay, will do. Does anybody have any thoughts? Let's review of campfires. I will double check the numbers, but so far, it seems as though it was so far a positive experience with minimal, only one at least, round of violations. Does anybody, there was Ed Hutchins, who unfortunately is not able to be here tonight, had suggested in his role as selectman when this recommendations on the changes in campfire permitting process went forward and they were discussing it, that he thought that this was something that should be revisited, reviewed at the end of this beach season. It sounds like I need to get a little bit more information from the police department or from the town manager. So are you comfortable with our...
One thing to know is did they turn anyone away because the maximum number was reached that night?
Okay.
Because that would dictate that, 6 a night was plenty, and if only 18 over the entire summer, that's not a lot.
Yeah, that's pretty manageable.
Sure, it would seem to me, even with the late start of July 18th, that 6 a night was more than enough.
Yep. Yeah, because August was much better on weather. I mean, it was times humid, but it wasn't pouring rain like most of July was. So any turned away because max already reached.
Well, yeah, I certainly would not increase that number based on the numbers of permits that were pulled, unless that was only 3 nights and they were full, but I don't think that's the case.
Okay, so are we all comfortable with, let's postpone further review of the campfires and making any suggestions for, hey, this looks great, leave it this way, or, you know, it changes until a next meeting perhaps, when we can get more info that we think we need to have in order to come to a conclusion about that.
I agree with that, Kate. I think it would also be helpful just to understand the one violation, just to see what's going on.
Right.
I think it was debris left behind. I thought that was what.
My guess is that's probably what it was, but I will definitely check on that. What was?
I think I stepped on it.
Well, there's still a very large piece of wood on the entrance to Proctor, which is where we normally go on, tossed over into the dune grass that's half charred.
That could have floated into.
Yes.
It was pretty far up on the dune grass.
Still could have floated.
Well, true.
Somebody threw it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. Someone probably threw it out of the way.
Yep,
Okay,
that's my vote.
we will. Okay, good. All right. Let's go now to the various subcommittee reports. I guess we'll start off with communication subcommittee. And first item we were looking at, we had 2 very helpful meetings over the last, since our last meeting, last 6 weeks or so. We've got a great committee going with Joanne and I. Carol has decided to drop off because she was going to be on it, and she'll give us her expertise where we need it. But she's got a lot of other stuff that she's dealing with right now, and so it'll just be as members from the committee, Joanne and me, for going forward. And we have Audrey Lakin, who of course handles the Facebook page, and Fred Stafford, who has a lot of experience with marketing and signage and creating a message. And
Kate, can I interrupt you 1 second? Your voice is getting very low. It's hard to hear you.
I don't know.
Speak up, maybe. I don't know.
I've got my volume turned up as high as possible, and I haven't changed it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's quieter than the rest of us, I guess.
Yes. Someone just sent in a comment.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So first, and Fred Stafford and Pam Zakansky. I've forgotten anybody, Joanne? I think that's it.
No.
Okay.
We had.
Yeah. Did you say that somebody has sent in a comment, Dave?
Just saying that the volume is low. That's all. Just to speak loudly.
I will try to speak very loudly. All right. First item was the continued use of constant contact. And Joanne, do you want to take that one?
Well, in one meeting ago, I noticed that there was a flag on it, so the payment had to be updated. And it's the first time that I've seen what we actually pay for it, because I've never looked before. I was very surprised that it's between $30 and $40 a month that we pay for constant contact. So my next question was, are we the only one that use this? That answer was yes. All I've used this for is to send out notices for the meetings when they come up, 4, 6, 8 times a year, and occasionally some other information that might need to go out, like the dog ordinance or, whatever else we put out. It didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me to pay that kind of money to put out a public notice, sending out about 560 notices, 50 to 60%, which were opened. And I understand that's a pretty good percentage. I have nothing to base that on. But we had talked about, is this the best use of $40 a month? And I question that, when we could be directing people to the town website and to be getting notices directly from the town and get rid of constant contact. I think it served its purpose, but I just wonder if it's a smart thing, a financially responsible thing to continue. Those are my thoughts.
Question 2 is, from what I understand, from when it goes out, it looks basically very much like the town. It's not saying, here's a message from the Beach Advisory Committee.
Well, it says, when it goes out, you see that it's from the town of Kennebunkport, and again, regarding the beach. And I've chatted with a couple of people who said, no, you don't do that. The town does. And I said, okay, whatever.
It looks essentially very similar or the identical to when the town sends out basically the same information to the people on the who have signed up for town emails.
Right. It was created to mimic that so that people understood that it was part of the town.
So what we discussed on the committee does, as I said, both from a fiscal standpoint, when there is now the town email system up and running and kind of running in parallel, does it make sense to continue this going forward? Or since we have we have a Facebook page, we have other forms of communication that we're looking at too, should we think about just letting this, like keeping it going for couple more months, maybe 3 more months, to give us the chance to send out email blasts to people saying, this is going to soon be shut down. And here's, chapter and verse on exactly how to get this same information from the town.
As long as they don't have to do extra steps to get the information. I mean, the information is being posted to them. If it comes to them from the town, the same way it came to them from, that sounds great to me. But if we're making them make 5 clicks through 10 pages on the town website, I don't think that's useful.
Initially I think, John, initially to sign up for the town email and to check off the things that you want to hear from them about, that's going to involve clicks.
But it's a one-time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Keep it going for a couple of months and do this several times over so that the 50 to 60% of people who actually seem still to be interested in this will have the opportunity, if they haven't already done so, to go and follow them. We'll give very detailed chapter and verse for dummies like me who probably wouldn't be able to figure it out otherwise, that says this. Paul.
Yeah, 2 things. I'm surprised that at least 2 or 3 times a month I get emails from people, including this week. I can't find on the town website how I get the notices about I can give you a list of 5 things that people email me about because I'm on a couple of committees. So I don't find it hard, but I know a lot of people do. The second thing is the Natural Resources Committee talked about at the last meeting, not this recent one, but the last one, of running regular educational natural resource emails and Facebook posts to people about all the issues that concern us about the beach and the marine life and the birds, etc. So I am not in favor of getting rid of it. I'm in favor of keeping it. I do think it looks exactly the same every time it goes out, and therefore people may not think there's anything worth opening at it. I know that if you don't do it, in an enticing way, it's not going to work. If it was issue specific, and that was the notice, for several years we say, what's up, what's new? And it doesn't surprise me that people don't open it. But 50 or 60% is a pretty good rate.
The thing that changes, Paul, on the top is the date of the meeting. So, there's a little change so they know that it's a new one. And they would have to open it to see the agenda and the issues that were going to be discussed that night. But as we spoke in the communication committee too, we thought, well, there's other things we can do as well. And this might answer your question that. And Kate, what the other things that we talked about to get information out?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we do use the Facebook page very effectively. Audrey is doing a great job on administering that, and will formally, if she hasn't already, become the administrator. And hold on, let me just finish, Paul. And that a lot of the same information that's going out on the Constant Contact also goes out on the Facebook page, as well as additional information, actually, which reaches an even larger, I don't know if they're, chapter and verse overlapping each other, but certainly the Facebook page, I don't have the exact number. I forgot to ask her about that, but it's significantly more than the 500 Facebook page. People who follow the Facebook page or click on the Facebook things that she puts out there. And then the other thing that we're looking at on the subcommittee, it's at early stages now, but Connie Dykstra is also, blessedly, thank you so much, is helping out on the subcommittee, and had a good suggestion, which we're looking at, is could we create a web page or a website that is specific to the Beach Advisory Committee, that is easy to reach, and that we could use for communications, that the same types of things that are now sent out on Constant Contact, which are also sent out on Facebook, but also a one-stop shopping place for information shopping for people to know what they need to know about the beach. It's difficult right now, I will admit, to go to the town website. You got to go to one place to figure out what are the dog rules, another place to figure out, what might be the other rules that pertain to the beach. If you don't have time to stop and watch that big, beautiful sign that's, was created long ago by the early on Beach Advisory Committee. And we're also much more of a digital age. I mean, people bring their cell phones to the beach and be able to access information, are used to accessing information that way. So we're looking at investigating what might be, whether we do it through the town's website, but it's, a separate page, and that we can continue to update it. And we can continue, and that, Paul, is exactly where, one of the reasons for that would be to have a venue to put out, not just here are the rules and whatever, and here are the meetings and here are this, but here's interesting information about the beach, about the natural, about the environment, about the local flora and fauna, et cetera. So I'm throwing that one out a little early. Now, Paul, all yours.
Thanks. So I think the website is an interesting idea. I think it's putting everything together under one roof would be nice. However, I don't think I think if people have a specific question, that's when they turn to a website. People don't go to a website to learn about something they don't know about. While Audrey, I think, has done a great job on the Facebook page, I tried several times this summer to get the content from the Facebook archives. Carol created a lot of content in the Natural Resource Education Department, which I didn't want to recreate again. It was posted over, back when different people ran the Facebook page. So we didn't do any of that this summer, and that's very disappointing to me. I tried, I failed in getting that kind of information out there. So I do think it's part of our mission. I don't think just putting it on a website is adequate. I think a website is a great resource. What time are the dogs? What time can I walk the dogs? Was the beach water testing good this week? How much is the parking decals? Those kinds of questions, I think if we were able to get those to pop up on a search, and I don't know how to do that. Connie probably does. That would be great. But to the other part of our mission, I don't think a website is adequate. I think Facebook is good, but I think a lot of people do not use Facebook. Young people don't anymore. And a lot of older people are, staying away from it for other reasons.
Okay, but I'm not sure I understand why. What are you suggesting? You're saying, as far as I know, the only thing that's being used for Constant Contact are the...
I'm saying we could use it more robustly. And we could send, for example, once a week notices during the summertime on issues related to the beach and the care of the beach and the stewardship of the beach, and who's vulnerable and why, and educating people about sand dollars and, all those kinds of things.
Okay, but we say now we've got, say, 500 constant contact.
Right, which is amazing.
Which is amazing. Let's drop that down to 250 to 300 because we only have active, according to Joanne's information. So
Right. Because we're not placing as much content as we used to in the old days. We started that list with about 250 people, maybe 300 tops, and it grew it grew by 200 and something. At its peak, it went to like 300. So we were doing something right then, because things just don't grow on their own. I wasn't in charge of it, by the way, but Katie Nixon and Meg Barry and Carol were involved in it, and it was much more engaging than just telling when the next meeting was.
Okay, but I guess I'm Barry.
Yeah, I kind of see it with two different missions. I really like the idea of our own website that's going to be a repository, a library of all the information that's come up. I see a second goal as being, okay, we have to reach people. We have to inform them that the fire ordinance has changed or the dog ordinance has changed. More of a direct communication bit as opposed to one being active, one being passive. So that's sort of where I see the difference. I see a need for both.
It's a both and, exactly.
So part of my issue was nobody else does use it but me, and all I have a need to do is send out the notices for that. So, and let me tell you, for me, as with Kate, it was a great struggle, and I call one of my children on a fairly regular basis if it's, I'm trying to figure out what. I think the cost may be justified more if we expanded the use of that. I will tell you, my computer has the access saved in it, and I have written down the access, but there isn't another person that's been able to get into it, including the town. I had to bring my computer there last week so they could access it through my computer. So I don't know why people are I don't know why people aren't able. So we would have to make sure that somebody else could get into it.
Joanne, why don't you call me next time you're around the beach? I'll be happy to. I used to use it, so maybe I'll
be down on the 15th.
And then for how long?
Probably the better part of a week.
Okay, because I'll be away the first few days, but I'll be in at the end of that week. I'll give you a ring.
Okay, so what I'm hearing on the constant contact is...
Carol's got her hand up.
Carol, sorry. For some reason, you're not on my little list up here. Oh, there you are. Thank you.
Our attendees, Chris and Mary O, mentioned that Constant Contact is a nonprofit discount and sales tax exemption information, and we can Google that. I don't know anything about it, but I thought that, thank you very much. I thought that might be something we could look into. I'm not for wasting money, but I was on natural resources, and I love teaching people. Our beach is different than most beaches, and that we have so many natural resources living from the sand dunes to the sea life to the birds. And I don't want to waste money, but I don't want to give up an avenue to reach the people to teach them. So.
Well, I was very afraid of losing all the email addresses, so I have learned to export them, so we won't lose them.
Yeah,
we won't lose them.
Good.
Dave, do we have anybody out there looking to comment or any hands up?
We have 9 attendees.
Okay. All right. Well, we've kind of covered 3 out of the 4 issues of the subcommittee report. We've talked about, we're starting to look at the creation of a website or a web page within the town's website. We have a very active Facebook effort that's going forward, and that post information that could be put out on Constant Contact and stuff beyond that at times. So what I'm hearing from all of you is a hesitation to make any determination at this point to shut down Constant Contact, that we need to look at more of how could it be used. I mean, I think in terms of, personally for me, if it were simply being used as it has been in the recent years, of put out information about meetings, agendas, et cetera, that are basically duplicative of what is available and sent out by the town to anybody who signs up for their email list, then I would personally say I think that this is not necessarily something we need to keep going on. If there's some other way that it can be included in, or it would be better perhaps in some ways, then if we can come up with you're talking somebody who really doesn't know her way around technology, so I'm stumbling through this. Whether a website or web page within an existing website would be equally effective in communicating information to people of the type that you're talking about. And I'm all in favor of that. I mean, one of the things I thought is an advantage of a web page or website was the ability to customize it to put out interesting, educative information about the beach, as well as, standard information that we've already been putting out about rules, regs, meetings, agendas, et cetera. To make it even, put out beautiful pictures like Audrey's already doing on Facebook, and getting tons of answers back every time. Oh my God, I really wish I was there, or can't wait to be there, that type of thing. So, but what I'm hearing is we're not ready to make a decision about Constant Contact right at the moment.
So if we talk about expanding it, using it for other things, then it has more value than just by sending out notices, for sure. And I see that.
And Yeah, going forward, we've got to think about, okay, so how does that operate? I mean, we went through that to an extent with the Facebook page, where we had a lot of people sending things in and using it, and we was getting a bit chaotic. So I don't pretend to know how this works under Constant Contact, and I'm open to suggestions. I mean, Joanne, do you know how that works? I mean, is it like the Facebook where you have one administrator and that person is the only one who should be
No, you just need a username and a password. But my only concern, and I'll talk to Paul next week when we sit down and figure out why no one else can seem to access this, is that if people have signed up for notices, and I want to be sure that they want to get a weekly barrage of emails, for whatever reason. That's all. One of my things was, how much mail do people want in their mailbox?
Yeah.
But that's for another day.
And that's, I think, goes back to, again, somewhat of the, when you were saying it had grown to 500, the Facebook has grown to, I think, several thousand. I mean, what the people who want to find out information either have gone to that or gone to the Facebook page, maybe have already gone to the town website and signed up for emails. So, we want to communicate to people, but we don't want to inundate them with stuff that they don't want to have either.
That's what I'm saying.
We have to kind of parse this around. It would be helpful, after you've had a chance to talk. Maybe we pursue this discussion at the next time the subcommittee gets together. The fourth item we've been looking at on that subcommittee is which we've been trying to look at for about a year or so, is the question of the enormous amount of signs that are at various entrances to the beach. Is Fred here? Is Fred one of the people that's attending?
Yeah.
Dave, can you?
Yes, Fred Stafford's here.
He's there.
Yeah, could you ask him if he could comment on that element or whatever you have to do?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I actually put together some pictures.
Unfortunately, I can't see you, but I can hear you.
Yeah. So somebody.
Yeah. Hey.
How do I do that? Oh, you do that.
There's Fred. Welcome.
Good.
Fred, you're muted.
All right, how's that?
Perfect.
Anybody lip read? Okay. So, all right, I took some pictures that which would be a lot better than looking at me. So let's see. Hopefully this will work. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Maybe this will work. Maybe this will do it. Okay. Can you see my desktop? No, you're just seeing
Yep.
me. You can.
We see you. Andrew does.
Well, can you see my desktop though? No?
Yes.
Yes.
You can. All right. Okay. We see that?
The pictures aren't there. We still have your list.
Oh, okay. How about now?
Nope.
Okay, let's see. Script. Let's see.
Do you have two screens?
No? Well, yeah, I have myself, and then I have, okay, what about up above? No, that's it. Well, let's see. Oh, it says my screen sharing is paused. Okay, resume share. Let's see if that helps. Can you see it now?
Try closing.
I'm sorry, try what?
Minimize the what you have up. Maybe it's behind it. It looks like it came up and then minimized itself.
Let me see, account owner, everyone.
Could you open them one at a time?
Right, I can do that.
Give that a shot. And then
Let's see. How's that?
negative.
Still nothing.
I don't know what you're doing. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Can you see a picture?
Yeah, I can.
I think it's minimized on your screen. If you can reduce this,
But he's seen it. That's what I can't understand. If he's seen it, do you have?
Let me stop share and try again.
Sure, you don't have two screens.
Well, I mean, I can see people.
No, I mean two separate monitors. Yeah.
No, I don't. How's that?
There you
There you
go.
go.
There you go.
Pictures.
Okay. All right. So I got a bunch of pictures here. You'll all be familiar with a lot of it. And I did go out to some other beaches as well. So we'll see quite a variety of things. So this is the west end of the beach. Am I talking loud enough? Can everybody hear me okay? All
We're
right.
good.
Okay. So west end of the beach. Let's see which way we're going to go here. Oh, good. I've got one picture and nothing else happening. That's not good. Anyway, the west end of the beach has quite a few, as you can see. Although we'd sure like to see more.
You do page down.
Oh, you know what? No, I only opened one because somebody asked me to just open one, so I did that. Let me try opening them all. Hopefully it's work. Okay, hopefully this will work now. Okay, you see that? Can you see that one?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, let me just get the full screen here. That's still working?
Yep.
Yes.
That's very good. All right, so here we are.
There you
Close. Everybody's probably familiar with these signs, and there are plenty of them. And there are a few more down at this end of the beach because you have the National Wildlife Refuge. You've got that poor faded plover sign, which needs some serious TLC. Then we have the swimming advisory. There's the plover, and then we have these clam flats, and that's only going to happen at the rivers. I didn't notice one at the other river, but there's probably one there someplace. I wouldn't know where, but so anyways, you can see there are a lot of a lot of signs to deal with. This is the only place I happen to see a kayak canoe notice and no overnight storage. There may be others on the beach, but these are the only ones I'm aware of. I think the little COVID sign that's been there for a couple of years almost now hanging down in the bottom. You know, a lot of what we have to think about here is what do we really need? You know, the rule of thumb in communicating through signs is as few words as possible. And the best example of that I can use is, you know, one sign with a 4-letter word, and it doesn't begin with F, it ends with S, it's stop. All right? There's a good reason they only have one word on a stop sign, is because that is the most important thing and the only thing you need to do there. So the more you write, the more you have on signs, the less people are likely to read them. When it's an outdoor board, a billboard, the rule for that is 5 words. Once you go beyond 5 words, the readership drops off dramatically, but some people insist on putting up a lot more than that. So again, we're all familiar with this one. And the dog one, again, I think this is for me personally, it's a constant source of frustration because there are just so many variations to it, you know? And
Fred, the pictures are not advancing, at least not on my screen.
oh, they're not?
No,
Not mine either.
What was the last thing you saw?
West End.
West End.
The second one.
West.
West End.
Okay. Well, how are my descriptions?
Excellent.
Yeah, those are great.
They resume share. Maybe this will work. Come on. Did you see anything different now?
Nope.
Nope, same one.
No? Well, I don't know quite. I'm going to stop share. I'm going to start over again. Tell me when you see something. Okay, do you see that now?
Yeah.
And we're back to the first one. Yeah, I'm sharing the screen.
Again, I understand apples. This could be an Apple thing, but do you have a page down or a next or an arrow?
Yeah, that's what I was pushing.
That wasn't working.
No.
Yeah, I think it's a memory issue. You've got so many big files there. It's not moving.
Oh, really?
Well, that's a good thought. Those files are huge.
Okay, well, I could shrink them down. Well, maybe we have to do this for another meeting. I tested this with my son earlier. He's in Colorado, and it worked. It took us a while, though, but it worked. Okay.
No. Fred, tell us about it, though.
Yeah.
Continue the verbal. And
It's really a visual story, unfortunately. But so anyway, the goal is obviously to, number one, get something that's going to be that people will read. If they're not going to read it, you know, it doesn't matter what you have there, right?
Mhm.
So the next step in this, after looking at all of this stuff, is to try and condense things down. One of the more interesting ones I saw was actually up at Fortune's Rocks. If you go to Middle Beach at Fortune's Rocks, they have a very nice wooden sign. It's big. It's probably bigger than we need, but it looks quaint, I guess I would say. It's in keeping with the architecture of the beach and all that. And if there were a way to do that. Now, you know, they had, the only problem there is we have so many entrances. And I think we'll have to make a decision in terms of how many of these are necessary at every entrance to the beach, you know? And there are a lot of entrances on the west end that are private entrances because there's no public parking down there. But a lot of those cottages are rented out to people. So they might not be aware of what the rules are, you know? So I think those are some of the decisions we need to make, is how do we consolidate the information, get it there in a viewer-friendly manner so the most important things can get across. I think the dog sign, I think, should probably be a separate sign. And for it to be most effective, it should be one that we can change out rather than having it the entire year listed. You know, if it's a matter of bolting them on and bolting them off, and I would even volunteer to do that, It just would make it so easy for people, because right now I would be hard pressed to tell you, what the times are. So, and I think, most people might be, hard pressed to do that. So I think that's it's a matter of prioritizing, like the signs on water quality are necessary, but is the entire, it's almost like it reads like a disclaimer, is that entire thing necessary? So it's going to be a matter of really paring things down, because this almost looks like the old, oh God, what were those old signs back in the 40s and 50s where they had there'd be one sign every 20 feet.
Burma shave.
Burma shave. Thank you very much. I knew somebody would remember. It's almost that type of thing, But like the sign we have about drone usage, recommended not to use drones or something like that. How effective is that when it's not even illegal to use them? You're just asking people not to, which tells me the nice people aren't going to use them because you're asking not to, but some idiot's going to do it because he doesn't care, and he doesn't care if there's a sign and a fine anyway, he's going to do it, So, how important is it to put up a sign like that has no enforcement behind it?
Well, on that one, the beach committee asked the town to ban them on the beach, and the best the town would do is that please don't. So the sign is a result of that. The beach committee was concerned about them. Owners were concerned about them, about people over their houses, and it was kind of a compromise.
Yeah.
So
why are they reluctant to ban them? Have an idea?
Let's not get into that.
Okay. All right. They all have drones, I see. So.
But the other point, just as a comment, some of these signs and some of the content is within our control, and some of it is not. Mm-hmm. So we really can't control, nor should we try to get Rachel Carson to switch their whole established marketing, advertising, even if we don't like it. I just picked Rachel Carson, but the same would go for the state, water quality. So some of it we I don't know whether the one at Fortune's Rock, that they put these signs together on a wooden kind of wooden sign and just merge them together, or they just put all the content on one.
No, there's still multiple signs.
Yeah, I'd love to see these signs. Or if you were willing to place them up on a Dropbox, I can reduce them all for you, and I think that might really help us. So let me know, Fred, what would make sense for you.
Well, I can reduce them.
All right.
I didn't realize it was going to be a problem, but I can go back and reduce them all. Well, that's not a problem.
But you can page through them easily on your machine, right?
Oh yeah.
That shouldn't be a problem for Zoom. Zoom's just sending the screen; it's not sending the image. So there's something else going on. Yeah, there's something else going on. Yeah.
Okay. And it's not hidden. It's not hidden behind the Finder window, as John suggested. If you minimized Finder.
If I minimize Finder.
Yeah, because that's how we're seeing the Finder window with all the. That's all we can see.
Okay. So do you see, what do you see right now? Anything? Nothing?
Same,
the list of JPEGs.
Oh, the list of JPEGs. Oh, that's weird. Okay. So.
But it didn't.
All right. Well, rather than holding everybody up while we're doing this, let's try this one more time. Anybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's West End.
First
Okay.
one.
That?
There you go.
Now you're moving.
Okay. All right. Somehow we're now moving. Okay. Can you see the plover sign?
Yeah.
All right. So we talked about that. So, and then here, this is still the West End, Clam Flats. Again, like I mentioned, that's something unique to the both river ends of the beach. It's also the only place that I happen to notice a kayak canoe thing.
The only place it exists.
Yeah. Okay. course, we're all familiar. This is the dog sign that I was referring to. I know you're all familiar with.
What's your thought on this out of curiosity?
Well, it would be much more effective if we could have something that's interchangeable. So you would know at the time you're going to the beach, this is what the rules are.
Oh, that's fair.
All right.
Sure.
So, and then for something that bolted on, bolted off, so people couldn't remove it easily, you know, I think that would just be much more effective.
Sure.
Just a matter of, you know, making it happen. So, all right. But again, that'll take some rework, and I'll try and come up with a design or something that might just rearrange everything. But if we could have, you could have a place on this that would occupy that same space, you know, but it would be changed out so it would be current. You're just telling, again, when you're communicating lots of times, I always try to tell people, it's like you've got a second grader going off to school. There are 5 things you want him to do that day. You know, if you tell him those 5 things as he's leaving for school, he won't remember any of them. But if you tell him one thing, he might remember. So you've got a 50-50 shot there. And, you know, it's no different with grown people, unfortunately. So if you have a sign that just has the information for that particular period, it's it's many fewer words. It's just simplified. People can look at the sign and at a glance know what it is. You have to work to look at this and find out, okay, you know, what month is it?
Got it. Yeah. Got it.
So that's just the whole idea. So if you looked at this and you were to take each one of these lots and make it its own sign, and you would change them out, you know, as those periods roll over.
Yeah, just as a comment, as I'm looking at this sign, which I haven't looked at that closely in a while, aside from the dog rules that changed, I just noticing it under parking permits, that's basically all changed because you can no longer buy them at the general store or I don't even think you can at the police department. So, it's a sign that was beautifully crafted years ago, and we've tried to make the changes necessary for the changes fairly significant changes we made in the dog rules. But, you know, it's a situation where as life goes forward, I did talk with Lori because one of the things briefly about this, one of the things we were looking at is, again, how important are various forms of signs in conveying information, as Fred pointed out, and is this not a different age, a more digital age? You know, I've often said, this is a gorgeous sign, but the problem is if you're a parent trying to drag, 3 little kids and all the beach equipment out, are you really going to be able to find the time to stop and look at this and figure out, okay, here are the rules, here's the whatever. But
that's why we put the QR code there.
Well, this is the interesting, the QR code is, first of all, this is the first time I finally learned that that's what it's called and what it does. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that occurs to me going forward, as with the people that don't have checks, that this is a much more digital age. And the one thing everybody does, even if they're dragging 3 kids and whatever, is their cell phone. So could we communicate a different way, get the information across, or give them a quick way to get the information? Lori did say to me that she thinks that it is still going to be important from their standpoint, in order to enforce something, you need to make sure people know it. And so that's, and at least at this point, thinking is that having, something similar to this with the rules laid out there, even if it's in a format that people really probably are not going to stop and read. So I think there's a discussion to be had there further about how do we get the information to somebody, as Fred suggested, and we'll suggest further, in a way that they're actually going to stop and or grab it and use it. Even if they just have to hold their phone up to with that,
And if you had a website, the QR code would then go to the website. The best we could do in the old days was the brochure and the parking information. But if you had a centralized website, then you have a nice big thing to go to.
Right. But you still need the sign.
Yes.
Well, this is something I think, this is getting the information. What I'm hearing her saying is we have to get the information out to people in order to be able to hold them responsible to agreeing, complying with it. The question that comes to my mind, for example, I mean, the brochures were beautiful. The ones that were originally, I mean, when we went to the paper ones in recent years, just because, it was COVID and all that. But again, that was the standard of communication when this was first done. And now we're moving into, I think, a very different digital age. And what would be the standard of this is okay way to communicate, because most people that will come there know enough to just hold their cell phone. I don't know the answer to that. I think it's something we need to look at further.
Yeah, there are no simple solutions to it, that's for sure, because there are a lot of legal issues, things you have to cover off. If you're going to enforce something, you have to warn people about it ahead of time and all that. So, I think at the best we can hope for is to simplify and reduce the overall number of signs that we have.
Right.
At this point, but let's just go through here, because I think it's, and there's the drone sign. It'll be interesting to see. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. This is just a dike road. Now, here's another thing. The placement of the signs as you come down, and this happens at some of the entrances at Dyke Road. The one to the right is facing forward, but the one to the left is to the side. So it'd be very easy to walk right by that and never even glance at it,
They were put on the side so they wouldn't block the view. Just so that was a decision that was made back when, and there was too much clutter along the streets. That's the thinking behind the sideways.
Yeah, I can see that, and that's legitimate concern. Sorry for the misspelling on Bel Air. But anyway, again, the sign is to the side there at Bel Air, and this is the tight entrance. Again, they're off to the side.
And that's the good reason. That shot shows why they're to the side. That I think looks great.
Exactly. But so do you want people to get the view, or do you want them to know what the rules are? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's an issue. I mean, we've got sign.
The conservation
If you see a sign, you're going to walk past it if it's facing you or if it's the side. If you're going to be a person who's going to read a sign, you're going to read the sign. You see that there's a sign there. You either ignore it or you read it.
Yeah, true.
I don't see the issue. Yeah.
Well, I think the conservation trust signs are nice because they're green, and it's green all around them, so they tend to blend in more. Which is nice. Little things like that. I think
it's all invasives around them too.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So,
I think
yes.
One of the things you're saying that consistency would be something we want to try and aim for.
Yeah, I think it depends. Consolidation would be a big thing.
Right.
Yet, how do certain things stand out? And if you consolidate, then you're having one sign that has a ton. I don't think we're ever going to get it down to one sign, because that would just probably be too much. But if we can look at, like the Conservation Trust sign, if we can look at colors and size and placement, and do they have to be at every entrance?
Much.
And again, if we knew people would use a QR code, boy, that would really simplify things. I mean, a lot of restaurants today, you go in, I think because of COVID, they won't even give you a paper menu anymore. You have to go on your phone to look at the menu at some places, which my 100-year-old aunt doesn't really care for because she's not too digitally inclined, But so I wanted to back up. So like the water quality sign, I imagine a lot of that is legal in nature. Yeah.
It's informative. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So where are we here? Okay. Jeffrey's, a lot of signs at Jeffrey's Way too. But again, I know this was an issue a few years ago, which was probably gave rise to the parking or unloading trucks and trailers and commercial purposes prohibited. That's got to be there. Obviously the no parking. So this is the entrance to the road, and this is the entrance to the beach right here. They're off to the side. And they're easy.
Hey, Fred?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a good example. All of these posts are controlled by the town. So you could consolidate and I like your word of consolidating. I mean, often when you go into a park, you see like a conservation trust, you see like a white, sign, and it might have a trail map over here, and then over here there might be a description of the history, and on, the whole thing might be 5 feet wide, but it's made up of separate communication pieces on it. And this is almost, like there's no reason why you couldn't consolidate onto the same, instead of putting a post and a separate for every single thing that comes along, to consolidate them all onto a wooden structure, sort of like a bulletin board kind of concept. Mm-hmm. That would have the information that's important, that we think is important relative to the beach use agreement and the beach rules. You could put the water quality stuff there. You could put your dog bags, at the bottom someplace. Mm-hmm. Over time the needs might change, but I think you could design something that would be much better than this. This is definitely an eyesore.
Yeah, it's worth taking a look at, And this is the same signs, but as you're going down the path. They're off to the side, but they're more readable. Okay, this is...
like the idea about something, sort of the concept of, sort of almost a bulletin board type thing, because we did design the bulletin board, at the general store, mm-hmm. which gives us the chance to put up things in a way that's safe from the weather and that's eye-catching, put up the things that are really needed for that particular time of year or season. And mm-hmm. some that stay up there all the time, like, for example, the recycling rules or something like that. But we've been able to change out the dog, put up a sheet of paper that's for the dog rules for that particular couple of months or whatever's in place. So, anyway, sorry.
At Jeffrey's Way or at the store, I could see maybe a large sign, but I strongly believe you need to have a sign at every public entrance, and you can't have something that big at every public entrance. I for one, just don't see the problem with the signs. So I'm not a good one to be in this discussion. I don't think we could reduce the number, yes, but heavens, I just don't think it's that big a deal. But then again, that's just my opinion.
Well, a lot of people we've talked to say, either they don't even bother reading them because there's so many and they're busy, particularly at these entrances of.
So they would read them if they were all in a big, wide, 5 foot wide thing, then they'd stop and read them?
I'm not suggesting something that large, John. I'm just saying that
I don't get it.
Lots and lots of signs. People just, we've talked, Carol and I, when we started looking at this issue last year, and we're doing a similar thing of, not as well as Fred has done it, of looking at, checking out each of the beach entrances. And, we were talking to people who were coming out and trying to use it, and including, I remember some folks who were have a house here, live in California, and were commenting on how it's an absolutely beautiful view to look at, but it's so cluttered up or polluted with all these, various forms of signs that it takes away a lot. So this is I'm just giving you feedback of what we're hearing from other people. So
it's just, hey, we may end up not changing anything, but it's just an exploration.
Right, exactly.
And so this is an example of Goose's Beach, and they've put everything on one. And again, it's, I think, John, going back to your comment, if people want to read signs, they'll read signs. And if that's what we firmly believe, then you could put everything on one sign like this and they would read it, but none of this is going to stand out, But for somebody that really wants to know what the rules are, well, first of all, that person's not the problem, right? The person that really wants to know what the rules are wants to know because they're probably going to follow them,
Right.
But another person walking by a sign like this that has everything could easily say, gee, I didn't see it. I'm not going to read all of that. I didn't count how many boxes, little lines they have here, but there's a lot of stuff there, and some of it,
Well, I would guess the purpose of this sign is to have it there for enforcement when they break the rule. That's
exactly.
The purpose of this sign.
I would say you're probably 100% correct. Okay, this is the one up at Fortune's Rocks that I was talking about. It's not really beautiful, but I think it's going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at least I think it's a little more attractive because it has some kind of shape to it. And, you know, there's a lot there. I'm not recommending this, but I think directionally something like this could work. But then again, you don't want something that's the size of a 4x8 sheet of plywood, you know, not with what plywood costs these days. But this is at Middle Beach, and this is not at Fortune's Rocks where they surf, you know, when you first get into Fortune's. There isn't a sign like that there. This was kind of interesting on the campfire permits.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's probably too much. You know, I mean, if you say permit required, you probably don't really have to say anything else, because then you're going to have to go somewhere else to get a permit. So then you'll find out what the restrictions are. So I think, you know, the top line would probably suffice there.
Okay. Agreed.
Or maybe where to get them, you know. And this is kind of interesting too, you know, 2 signs about dog waste, and not just dog waste, but all about dogs. They get 2 signs, you know. And again, the one in red, that's a lot of information to absorb.
Mm-hmm.
This is York Beach. They seem to be concerned about people leaving trash, so they don't have any trash bins, which was interesting. Probably not a bad, I know a lot of national parks do that too, because we've all seen, like you see them here at the beach. You know, in fact, while I was taking pictures of these signs, I saw a woman picking up her doggy droppings in her yard, and then she went over to the town waste basket, you know, waste barrel, and dumped it in there. But wow, that was nice. So, and again, town of York, again, they, you know, similar to what we saw in the other one.
Yeah.
They have everything, almost everything listed on one, like Beaches did. This is a Gunkwit. Sorry, but it was a little late by the time I got to a Gunkwit. But again, every one of these signs is different.
It's hard to tell which is most important to them.
Yeah, it's depending on.
Yeah, at least it communicates. I mean, back to what Fred was saying, you got 5 words on each sign except for the one of swimming, and you know,
Right.
Yeah,
you can scan it and you can see what they say.
exactly.
But that's a heck of a lot of signs, guys. That's not, you put this all on one big sign, it wouldn't be anywhere near as readable.
No.
Well, still, John, they're consolidated. They're not all over the place. They're in one location.
Yeah,
This is one post.
Different shapes and sizes and things. You could do it. Like smoking prohibited is all you really have to say. You don't have to say where it is. You're there already.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're at a Gunkwit Beach and you see a sign that says no smoking, I think you would assume it means here where I'm standing, right?
Yeah.
So this is Rye, New Hampshire. This is a real beauty of beautiful collection of signs. And it's even in more than one language in some places.
Yep, more than one language.
Right, and you've got two on dogs here. You know, notice to dog owners. Again, they can be, sometimes things just get very wordy, you know. Looks like people have added their own little stickers and things to them as well.
They're personalized.
Yeah, personalized. And this one was interesting. I thought no dogs on the beaches or in the parking lot. And I'd like to know where they came up with $62. Not 60, not 65, not 100, 62.
Inflation probably. It started.
Yeah. This is also in the Rye area.
I'm glad to know we're not the only ones with some degree of science.
Yeah. Now this is my favorite. This is Hampton Beach.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about Hampton is apparently you can't do anything. They even put no soliciting on there. No cooking. Yeah.
No digging big holes on the beach. Boy, would I love that one for change.
Right. So that's pretty much it. At least it gives you an idea of what we have, what other people have. You know, one thing about the Hampton one, at least it's pretty clean looking. You know, again, they should just say, you can't do anything. Go home. And you see there's no one on the beach. So they're very effective.
It worked. Everybody left.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's it. That's
It's excellent.
where I'm at right now. And just to start, this is all just food for thought to see. This is what we have. This is what other beaches have. We all face the same problems,
Yeah.
And I'll still get around to a couple other beaches too and see what they have. Maybe it'll be a eureka moment somewhere,
That'd be nice.
maybe not. But anyway.
That does a huge amount of work, and I really think it points out that we do need to consolidate. We need to make them more user-friendly. Maybe we can't get rid of them, but I think we can present them better. The visual chaos and the clutter is just ridiculous.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something's important enough to warrant a sign, we should make sure people are going to read it.
Yeah.
And I think the dog one is probably the most important one in many respects because that's the one that, is an ongoing issue. And people need to know, can they, can't they, and what time is it? And when you put the whole year up there, it's, people just aren't going to wade through it to find out.
No, I think I like John did whoever did a great job in coming up with that chart, but I agree that I think it's much more effective than some of what we've seen on some of the other beaches, unless it's something like a Gunkwood that just says Ixnay for dog.
Right, yeah.
But
Okay.
I do think that having something that's very specific that can be changed out easily to the exact time that somebody's standing there looking to come out on the beach with puppy attached and that gets to know the rules for right now today.
Yeah, I think the sign that's there now, the part about the dogs, I think that's laid out as well as anything possibly could
Right.
be for the entire year.
Yeah.
But it would be more impactful, more useful if we could just, change them out.
Yeah.
As long as somebody's willing and has them and changes it out. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we can keep this up in the communication committee.
We will. We will be
We'll
back.
keep talking about it.
Okay.
Yep, it's not going to happen quite overnight, but maybe before next
That we
time.
can guarantee.
It's a start.
It's a good start. So, all right. Well,
Thank you, Fred.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Fred. Great job.
Thank
Right,
you.
right.
Exactly. Okay, let's move on to natural resources. Who's going to take point on that, John or Paul or
Paul. Yeah.
Okay.
A couple of items. One, it's that time of year when we take down the stakes and the twine that have been used at the walkways and the dunes to protect them. And we're going to do that next Monday at 10 a.m. We're going to meet at the corner of Proctor and Kings Highway. If anyone is available, we'd love to have you. I sent out an email today to some people, and I've got a few already. So we're going to store them this year. We can't store them where we stored them in the past. So we're going to store them down in the low area behind the firehouse in that parking area. We do need a pallet. If anyone has a pallet lying around their property, let me know. We need to store them on something. We don't want to put them on the ground. And I have a tarp we can cover them with. And John is organizing the kayak rack removal. John, what's the time of that?
And it'll be on the 22nd of October. That's a Friday, I believe, or a Saturday? Friday, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Is it a Friday?
Friday.
1 o'clock. We'll meet at again at the corner of Proctor and Kings Highway. The trust has been good enough to let us store it. I'll have the trust pick up, and we'll load them into the pickup, and then take them to the trust and unload them and stack them next to the boat storage at the trust.
Super.
And as a general matter, I would say the staking worked out really well this year. I went a couple of times to check on them and make sure everything was up, and they really held up very well. Very, very little abuse. They're all still sort of standing till the end of the season. So
Yeah, it's good.
that's great.
I think, Paul, too, that what I see is that we protected it so well, the grass is growing beyond the staking.
Yes,
Yep.
So
that has happened.
that's a sign of success.
And it's building up well. It just is very
Yep.
exciting on that score.
Yep.
And the,
A bit of a bump from Mother Nature by having so much rain and so, a lower beach population, that the grass could just grow and grow, and it did a beautiful job doing that. So, and I think it's another year of doing it, so people are getting used to the concept. I mean, the first year we had all sorts of complaints about, oh, you're taking up too much of the beach, or oh, that looks, why are we doing this? And I think people are seeing it back this year, getting used to it and understanding the reason for it, and good for going forward.
And I think the kayak racks have helped tremendously to keep the kayaks out of the grass and let the grass grow where it needs to be growing, to rebuild the dunes. We did put up signs on all the kayak racks to tell people they were going to be disappeared from the beach. John, there are maybe 8 or 10 kayaks that are locked up. So hopefully by this announcement, you can, if anyone hears this and knows somebody with a kayak out there, please have them removed. But before we said the 15th, we're not going to do it till the 21st.
Second, yeah.
The only other thing that I have before Carol does a Plover report is we were looking to meet with the town and perhaps Megan, once all the data is in from the water quality testing. We usually have had an end of year kind of wrap up with the town. And I guess a quick question for this group is, should the subcommittee do it, or do you want it done at this, in front of the whole committee? We can do it either way.
How have we done it in the past?
We've done it both
the whole
ways.
committee. Oh, I'm sorry. What I remember was the whole committee.
Okay.
Yeah, it's happened both ways.
Yeah.
There's often, we're very fortunate at the beach to have, the town who is working on this, but we also have a marine biologist, there's like 3 PhD people who do the water testing who are very helpful and knowledgeable. Steve Hanna right now is researching all the areas in Maine. He's gotten all the data for all the areas in Maine, seeing whether there are areas that have less population than we have that have similar bad numbers like we had this summer. We had some terrible numbers at certain points of the summer. So we're trying to, work with the town to, move this forward and not do the same thing each year. We would like to have a time when our numbers are much lower. It could be that, if the problem is more ducks and dogs and birds and not human, that would be great to know. We don't know that yet. If it's human, we should want to try to solve that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an annual discussion we have with the town. We've been doing it for a number of years. And go ahead.
I'm just thinking I would love to see this as something before the full committee. I mean, I think it's natural resources hands-on to work with this, but I'd love to see a report on this.
Sure. Fine with me.
I think it's, a very cogent issue for this, obviously starting with you guys, but also for the full committee and for the town. So whenever you want to schedule it, we'll make sure it gets on the agenda. Because I think we'll, probably have maybe 1 or 2 more meetings this year than we've had in the past over the winter.
There's always a timing issue. We get a certain amount of data back by now, but the DNA testing, it's kind of the state gets a cheap rate from a professor over at UNH, and when we get the information back,
you get what you pay for.
You get what you pay for.
Well,
He's great.
Timing wise.
Timing wise.
That's what I meant. Time wise.
Yeah.
Where
But,
your priority rule list?
But we can inquire.
Okay. Well, why don't you let us know when you think you want to aim it for, and we'll be talking about future meetings anyway going forward and how we might time those. So let us know.
Thanks.
Okay.
And Carol Plovers.
Plovers. They are sunning themselves on the sunny beaches of Florida and farther south. They're gone. We are in migratory season for the birds. And so those of us who enjoy seeing the different birds, we have many different species come through at this time of year. So we have a man by the name of Ken Janes, Janes, who is a retired surgeon who moved here, who has produced and I get nothing for this, but I bought his book, produced a beautiful book on actually birds here in Kennebunk that he's taken pictures of. So if there's anybody out there who says, what is that bird? And he's done some great job. So the birds are good. They say hello. They'll be back the end of March, hopefully.
Carol, do they
mentioned our beautiful, with the high number we had this year in
highest we've ever had.
article. Yeah. That was, and the other thing that I think we're seeing migrating in the process of migrating, at least judging from what I see from my front porch, are monarch butterflies.
Most I've seen in quite a while. So.
Yeah.
Plant your milkweed.
Yeah.
Carol, quick question. A lot of our staking abutted theirs, so we didn't do sections that the state had done. Do they take theirs down?
Yes.
Okay, great.
They've taken them all down on the west end. They're already down.
Thanks.
Okay. Is that natural resources? Great information. We're all done with your report?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you. All right. Traffic and safety. Gary.
Okay, it's always hard to follow the enthusiasm of Carol. She's talking about clovers. So, as I reported in last time, Art LeMay, Tom Adler, and myself had gotten together. We put together some really ideas, observations, suggestions based upon comments we had received back from the community as well as from our neighbors. Many of them are very opinionated on this, and much is appreciated when they do come forward. And we're in the process of setting up some time with Lori Smith and the police chief. They're away this week. We tried to see them last week. It didn't work out, but I would imagine later this month, the three of us will sit down, go through some of these, what I'll call suggestions at this point, see what's feasible, what isn't feasible, put it into some more concrete what I'll call a paper, if you will, that we'll then review together as a committee and see if there's anything in there that resonates with our group prior to making sort of what I'd call final recommendations. So work in process.
Good. Thank you. I'm still looking for the painted crosswalks.
They're on the list.
Barry, what did you think about the signs that individuals put up at the West End?
It sort of goes back to what we said before. Sometimes too much of a good thing isn't good. So, I had no problem with one or two. I think when every second lawn has it, you don't pay attention anymore. That's kind of where I was not going to put one up on our lawn, but, for that reason alone.
Okay. Did you think they were effective at all? If one or two would be effective or not at all?
I do think one or two. I think the ones that have the children on them, people begin to think. But we'll see. We've got a couple of ideas along those lines that we're going to go through with the town.
Super.
Good.
Great. Thank you. Okay, let's go to. Are there any public comments out there? Anybody want to?
Can you see the chat room? There's a question.
That's what I'm wondering. If there are any questions with regard to that or any additional comments. And I can't answer your question. No, I can't see the chat room. So
okay.
I don't know.
If we're considering adding another parking kiosk New Bedford Road, we need to consider where these people are going to access a restroom. My concern is water quality, and the only place these folks have is our ocean. The other kiosks, are closer to public or portable restroom, the Tides, the general store, and the pumping station. Let's figure out if we can put a portable seasonal restroom closer to the way access point in Jeopardy. So we've discussed bathrooms before. We've got the one at the store, and then Tides has said we can use theirs.
I think for a year or two, we had bathrooms located on a property owner who generously donated space on their property on Proctor, I believe, and that has long since passed by. So I think, I don't know, yes, we can look into it. I don't know what the answer is for the far end of the beach and how difficult it would be to find some place that isn't private property there that it could be located.
Right.
So, but thank you for the comment or the inquiry. Anybody else out there, Dave? Raising a hand or doing anything?
There's nobody in the chat.
Okay, good. All right, so let's move on to other business. And I only have one item that I want to throw out there in that it's apparent that next year, and this is kind of an early heads up, coming next spring when we start looking at what seats on the BAC will be open and need to be filled next year. And there will be one backlot seat open, as in mine, because I have done, 2 terms and I couldn't run again. I'm not saying even if I wanted to, but I couldn't run again, period. So that resolves the issue. And then there will this year be 2 beachfront seats opening up. Joanne Guston is in the same position I am, that she has done 5.5 years now. And she too will have to leave or retire from the Beach Advisory Committee. And Jen Wasserman has informed us that she's not going to run for re-election. That they're going to be spending a lot more time away from the beach as their primary residents may move to California. So there will be 2 beachfront openings coming up and 1 backlot opening. And I'm just putting that out there so that people can start thinking about and maybe, talking to friends or neighbors to see if people, particularly on the beachfront, which is a much smaller pool of people to choose from at this, or who may be willing to run. So let's kind of start working that one if you can, folks. And that's it. Other 2 go on, unless somebody else has something else.
Good.
Has a decision been made whether we can continue on Zoom or whether we have to be in person for the?
As far as I know,
We have to be Zoom.
As far as I know, it's Zoom until we hear something from the selectmen. So, future meetings. Okay, in the past, I think we have traditionally had fewer meetings over the winter, although I think there are a lot of activities that or issues that we're dealing with. I am sort of a mind that perhaps we need another one in about, sometime in November, and then take a bit of a break over the end of the year, holiday season, whatever. How do people feel about doing our next meeting sometime in early to mid-November?
Fine.
Mid.
Yeah, mid.
Yeah. Okay.
November 15th?
6 weeks instead of.
We have to wait and see what's available, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so I will check with, work with Dave and Lori to see what's available and send out some possible dates, hopefully along the same lines of what we've had in the past, a Monday or whatever. And that seems to work pretty well, particularly anybody that's coming from a distance. Okay, I will get back to you on that. We'll work for mid-November, preferably, certainly well in advance of Thanksgiving, and then we'll take our annual sort of over the holidays break. And that's, I think, about it, unless somebody would like to make a motion to adjourn.
One more question, Paul. What time did you want people to meet on Monday, October 11th?
October 18th. Next.
Well,
18th?
I'm sorry.
the 11th.
Hold on. Let me go back to October. It's the 11th at 10 o'clock. I'm sorry. Thank you, Carol.
10 o'clock on the 11th. Okay.
Thank you.
And again, it was 1 o'clock on the 22nd for those that would be willing to help with the kayak racks. Thank you. Thank you.
1 o'clock. Okay. So do we have, if there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
Paul? Joanne? Vote.
Bye.
John?
Bye.
Paul,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Gary,
Aye.
and me. That's it, right? Okay, motion to adjourn has passed unanimously. Thank you all, and we'll see you on subcommittees, or we will see you next month.
Great.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Night.